President William Ruto has appointed drug barons into his cabinet.
Wale walanguzi, wale wanaofanya biashara ya kuuza madawa ya kulevya Mombasa hii.
Drugs are being smuggled through JKIA.
From the skies above Jomo Kenyatta Airport to the deep waters of the Indian Ocean, a silent trade bleeds the nation of its soul. They call it business, but it trades in death. Cocaine, white powder, dark money, and hands too powerful to touch. This is a story of barons who dine with ministers, of airports that serve as highways of poison, and of a country whose veins are quietly injected with corruption. Tonight, the red mic follows the trail from the whispers of Rigathi Gachagua's explosive revelation to the hidden rooms of power where truth is the most dangerous drug of all. This is not fiction. This is Kenya, and this is the empire of drugs, blood, and betrayal. In the next few minutes, you will uncover how Jomo Kenyatta International Airport became a global gateway of narcotics, how political giants in the cabinet turned into merchants of death, and how an invisible war now rages within Kenya's own government. Stay with us, because every second will reveal a truth they never wanted you to hear. Press the subscription button.
I said President William Ruto has appointed drug barons into his cabinet. Drugs are being smuggled through JKIA.
Who in his cabinet is in charge of that?
You have seen the photographs. The people who are smuggling drugs through the airport, you have seen their photographs with the cabinet minister. And everybody knows that cabinet minister who is a drug baron. There are two.
Kila wakati mambo ya drugs yakizungumzwa, tunaona watu fulani wanakuwa wanaharibiwa majina. Sisi tunasema Mheshimiwa Ali Hassan Joho ni Mkenya.
Night falls over the Nairobi, and the roar of departing jets drowns the whispers of underworld. Beneath the lights of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, not every cargo carries flowers and tea. Some bear different harvest. Cocaine, fine, white, but very deadly. Custom officers glance, nod, and look away. Paperwork is immaculate. Seals are broken. Yet hidden within diplomatic crates and refrigerated containers lies Kenya's darkest export. Cocaine, a powder whose value exceeds coffee, gold, and human conscience combined. For years, the Devil's Runway has connected Nairobi to Dubai, Amsterdam, Karachi, and Bogota, a silent artery in the global narcotics web. And behind its safety lies influence, not chance.
We have two drug barons in parliament. Two drug barons, not in parliament, in cabinet. Two known drug barons who cannot go to the United Kingdom and the United States. Known for millions and billions of shillings. The executive. The president is part of the problem.
Two powerful men, both cabinet kings in the house of Kenya's republic. They stand at the crossroads of politics and poison. One celebrated as a reformer now shields a shadow empire that launders billions through clean tenders and campaign coffers. The other, a smiling diplomat of trade, whose cargo routes stretch far beyond official ledgers. Their fingerprints never found, but their scent lingers on every sized shipment that disappears before dawn. When shipments vanish, promotions follow. When detectives speak, transfers answer. And when truth tries to fly, it is grounded at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Welcome to the Devil's Runaway. This is where nations' getaway to the world became the world's gateway to its decay.
And I asked William Ruto, he had put me in charge of fighting drugs and alcoholism. When he was appointing these two ministers, I asked him, Mr. President, where does that leave me? How do I continue with this war on drug abuse when I'll be sitting in the same cabinet with the drug barons?
They say history does not repeat, It only remembers, and Kenya remembers too. From the humidity dogs of Mombasa in the 1980s, crates marked as spices began whispering another scent: cocaine and heroin. Fine and foreign ships from Karachi, Dubai and Mumbai found a safe shore, guarded not by pirates but by politicians. And that was the birth of a brotherhood. Men of power who learned that powder buys loyalty than policy. Their sons studied abroad, their companies blossomed, their donations gilded election seasons. Each campaign poster printed with invisible dust, the price of silence. When democracy arrived, it did not cleanse the dread, it crowned it. Parliamentary immunity became the perfect armor. Deals were inked in boardrooms, guarded by uniforms, blessed by signatures that spoke the Queen's language, but they served the devil's intent. By the 2000s, the underworld had a seat at every banquet. The Akasha empire rose and fell, but its disciples learned well. They blended the old coast networks with the new Nairobi's financiers, banks, real estate firms, tent empires. A cartel in a suit no longer needed a gun. A phone call was just enough. And today the same bloodline flows through ministries and boardrooms. Their children inherit companies, not consciences. Their convoys glide past checkpoints that ordinary men cannot cross. They are the invisible merchants of a visible state, the lords of both vote and vice. This is how Kenya's politics and narcotics became one bloodstream, red with money, white with powder, and black with fear. April 27, 2025, Old Joroko, Nyandarua County, under the skin of a rural church service, Rigathi Gachagua rose, a voice echoing across hills, and dropped a stalling claim. He said that when he left the government, President William Ruto brought 2 drug barons into his cabinet as secretaries. And he asked, how do you expect to fight against drugs to be won? It cannot. He said the youth are left in boldest protection. Gachagua did not name the names. He did not name the cabinet ministers. But he added with a sharp weight that now Kenya is the only country in the world where drug barons selling drugs sit in the cabinet. Fast forward to October 5th, 2025. In an interview with the Spice FM, Rigathi Gachagua resurfaced those same accusations, reinforcing them, pressing the point. The alleged barons are not fringe. They are central. Names were hinted at, implications sharpened, but still no official name, no public proof beyond allegation. Please note that there is no reliable public source confirming which 2 ministers were explicitly named in that interview. And those words, though veiled, they matter, because there are claims from a high-level voice that was once inside the government. Public, deliberate, impossible to ignore. And they force the following questions. Who are these cabinet secretaries? What evidence, if any, supports the implication that they are involved in drug trafficking? And how do such claims connect to the secret routes of narcotics, the devil's runway that moves poison under diplomatic tags? And so from these drops of accusation, the trail begins, not yet with proof, but with suspicion, shadow, and urgency.
And anything I've told Kenyans have come to pass. Drugs are being smuggled through JKIA.
East Africa's busiest gateway, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, is at the center of an international drug storm.
It seems Kenya has joined that infamous map of nations whose runways are no longer for planes, but for cocaine and heroin. They say every empire of crime must build its church of silence. And in Kenya, that church stands tall, built not of stone but of men who swore oaths to protect the nation. And yet, they now guard the traffickers' gates. At the airports, scanners blink with selective blindness. At the ports, customs officers stamp papers they never read. And in boardrooms, suit smile as laws bend, and somehow in the corridors of power, the devil's runway remains open, not because the system failed, but because the system obeys. This is the shield of silence, a covenant between politicians who need money, officers who need promotion, and cartels who need protection. Every decade rewrites the same confession that corruption is not an event, it is an institution. But behind the shield grows the empire within, an invisible economy where drugs finance campaigns, launder into real estate, and turn criminals into kings. A penthouse in Nairobi, a hotel at the coast, a private jet that never appears in budget records. The man of ruin baptized as property. Kenya is a nation perched on a moral cliff, staring at the abyss of our own creation. From Pablo Escobar's Medellín to Mombasa's show-dog dogs, history repeats that when power and poison dine together, the people pay the bill. The question is not whether the devil's runway exists. It is whether we have the courage to close it. For every gram that leaves this land, another dream dies in Mathare, Kisauni, and Kayole. The drugs may travel abroad, but the addiction stays at home. Once in the jungles of Colombia, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria turned ordinary airstrips into rivers of cocaine. The Cali Cartel learned from him. They were hiding narcotics in shipments of coffee and cut flowers, their paperwork immaculate, their payments divine. The Sinaloa Cartel perfected the craft. Diplomats, officers, pilots, each bought, each blind. The world called them criminals. They called themselves businessmen. And now, 4 decades later, their shadow flies east, resting upon Jomo Kenyatta's International Airport. Gachagua's words resound that they export drugs disguised as minerals, saying they are taking them for purification. Minerals for purification. That's how the devil smiles. Container sealed in Mombasa. Air freight cleared at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Manifest signed by invisible hands. Shipments leave our soil stamped with the government seals, glide through scanners that somehow slip and arrive abroad as chemical treasure. Officials look away, uniforms blink, and the devil's runway hums quietly, fearing ruin under the wings of legitimacy. History repeats its most dreadful poetry. Escobar corrupted airports. Our barons, it seems, prefer contracts and clearances. Where the Colombian cartels bought policemen, ours buy policy itself. And so when you hear whispers at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is now a corridor from Mombasa to Dubai, from Eldoret to Europe, remember, this is not a new invention. It is just old sin rehearsed in a new language. And so as the lights fade on this investigation, remember that truth is not luxury. It is the last defense of a dying conscience. If this story moved you, share it. Let your voice join ours. Subscribe to this channel. This is where we dig, question, and uncover the stories they would rather keep buried. Because history only forgives the brave, and silence, my friend, has never changed a nation. This is the red mic.
You go out on the streets, you can actually see and know that this is a place that they're selling drugs. So if they cannot be able to arrest, then the only thing that we can be able to assume is that they're in cahoots. They know who is bringing this in. They're working together because they've never been able to do anything.
First of all, wasafishe huko kwao, waulize hao watoto wao wananunua hii mihadarati wapi? Na wale wanauzia hao ndio waanze kushika hao, wasiache kupiga mdomo tu hapa ya siasa. And I mean business, by the way. Mambo ya kutishwa mimi sitaki.
People who are smuggling drugs through the airport, you have seen their photographs with the cabinet minister. And everybody knows that cabinet minister who is a drug baron. There are two. And I asked William Ruto, he had put me in charge of fighting drugs and alcoholism. When he was appointing these two ministers, I asked him, Mr. President, where does that leave me? How do I continue with this war on drug abuse when I'll be sitting in the same cabinet with the drug barons?